I've got two special guests today, and I just don't love. See, I'm gonna get emotional already. I don't love anybody more on this planet than I love these two people, and I never knew I could love people as much as I love them. And I love that. One of the things that I've learned is that love just grows more love, and so as much as I love them, it helps me to love all of you more. Is that a funny thing to say? It's how I feel. These two are my sun and moon and stars. I'm welcoming to the show for the first time. Don't go close on me, Traven. I'm crying. I'm welcoming my son and my husband. So Jim and Jem are here with me. They're in a different part of the house. There they are. I love these men so much. For those of you who have not seen my son on the show before, he is about to be 18 years old. He's about to graduate from high school, and he's about to have to figure out which one of the colleges that have accepted him is he going to say yes to. And mom and dad are sweating that out. So yes, we can't wait to see. So good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Can you hear us okay?
Long time no see. We're hoping we don't get too much feedback. The house is not that big, and we had to get far enough away from each other to see if we could make this work. Okay, and with Judy, so thrilled that you're here, and thank you. Blessings upon your family as well. Okay, so first I want to say this is weird, but because they're just in the other room, and we tried to decide, should we do it all in one room or do it separately? But hello, Christina. Christina says, good morning, beautiful people. And okay. So for those of you who don't know, my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. And I think that part of our story as a family is that we all three of us made a decision. When Jem was little, he couldn't make the decision, but in later years had made the decision that we wanted to make sure that we brought hope and inspiration to other families. So but as always, I'm going to say to Jem, if I start talking about something and you are like, that's not what I want to talk about, he always has the right to say, stop talking about that. And I ask you probably way too often for your comfort zone. I come to you and say, hey, can I talk about this? Can I talk about that? Is that exhausting for you when I ask you that?
A little exhausting, yes.
Okay. Please feel free to write in questions, you guys. But yesterday, and Jem, I didn't talk about this with you beforehand, and I don't know, you probably don't remember this, but I did talk with Dad about this a little bit. Yesterday, I was talking to a dad who was having a hard time. And he said, I just don't, basically, I don't know where this is going to end up, and that he needed some hope. And I remember a time when, after you were diagnosed, Jem, it was like, I just felt like we needed to get moving fast and that we needed to do a whole bunch of stuff. And Dad was just a little bit, we were on a different page in that, he was concerned and wanted to do stuff for you, but I don't think it really hit him. I don't think he understood what was happening. But so we went to go to my niece Karen's wedding. You were just little, Jem. And it was terrible. Our flights got canceled. We got stuck in Denver. We couldn't get a hotel room. It was terrible. Your stomach was upset. I was a mess because your stomach was upset. And we were sitting in a restaurant, and your dad broke down in tears. And I said to you, Jem, I said, what's going on? Tell them what was happening in that moment.
Yeah, I remember. We had recently seen To Kill a Mockingbird for the 100th time. And I just watching the father-son relationship, I was, it was still early on. So I was it just finally hit me that the future is so unpredictable. And I was just hoping, Shannon and I are both very theatrical people on and off stage and screen. But I just always wanted to see, I always pictured maybe acting with my son, or certainly seeing him acting in something if it was something that he wanted to do. And at that moment, I wasn't sure. I was just I didn't know if that was that was ever going to happen, because it was early on, and we just really were just playing it by ear, seeing what we can do, and didn't know the cause and effect and what was going to happen. And so that was the reason for that. It was literally like a sudden realization. But on the other hand, I remained hopeful. And Shannon, I'd like you to tell where he is now,
Well,
basically.
well, I want him to tell where he is now, but I just want to say that as we sat there in the booth and I said to you, why are you crying? What you said to me at the time was, I just want to know, and I don't know that he's ever going to get the joy of being in a play. Will that ever happen for him?
Right.
And I just wanted to put that out there to families, because I know that people are sitting there today and saying, I don't know that my child is going to be able to do X, or I don't know that my child is going to get to do Y. And last week, we got to watch you, Jem, in your high school play. Even in COVID, we got to watch you in your high school play, and we were so proud of you. In fact, some of the viewers wrote in and said that they saw you in the play. And they said, Jem, loved you in your play, the passion you brought to the character. Wow. So I know it's weird for you because you don't remember being 3 and you don't remember your dad crying about that. But you've gotten to act in several plays now. Is that something that gives you joy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it gives joy when I'm like going through it and like going through the lines. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to tell people about what you're thinking about studying in college?
Um, it's a mix. It's a mix of either theater or screenwriting.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've got some choices. You've some good schools, and mom bugs you every day about where you are with things. I'm not asking you to disclose and where you're going, but what are you thinking about today? Like what's important in your choices to you?
Um, right now, probably screenplays, I guess.
Okay. Because you've gotten into a couple of different programs. Nancy has written in and said there are so many out there who put down ABA. They say that those who went through it call it cruel, and they are discouraging parents from putting their kids into ABA therapy. What would each of you like to say to them? I talk to those people all the time, and I talk about how amazing our lives are as a result of ABA, but they don't get to hear from you, Jem, and they don't get to hear from you, Jim. Who wants to go first?
I'll tell you one thing, if you don't mind. I think it's the exact opposite of cruel. I mean, it is so based on reinforcing. And we had the most amazing therapists for Jem, and the times I remember most are just the hugs he got, and the reinforcing and the positive thing. That's what did it. I mean, that's what really made him step up, and he did an amazing job because he was so reinforced. So that's
Yeah.
I don't see the cruelty. I don't even
Yeah.
understand that comment.
He was a happy kid. But
Yeah.
Jem, I know that a lot of it you don't remember, but from what you do remember, what would you say to those people?
I say that ABA is pretty good. At sometimes it could be cruel if there's a therapist which doesn't care for your child as much as someone else. Um, then it might be cruel. But in every other case which I've been through, it has been quite exceptional and quite enjoyable through those 8 years of ABA.
I think that's a really good point, Jem, because we talk a lot on the show about good quality ABA and not good quality ABA. And I think it is important to recognize that if people do it wrong, and if someone is not caring and compassionate, it absolutely could be cruel. But I'm glad to hear that you don't feel like it was cruel in your case, because we, the last thing on earth we would ever want is for somebody to be cruel to you.
It's hard
So
work. It's hard
yeah,
work for sure.
it
I mean,
is.
that's one thing. It's not playtime, you know. It's not
Yeah.
someone coming in to play with you, for several hours. It's
Although they do play,
oh, they do,
in between
absolutely.
working.
No, but it's
Yeah.
very well disguised therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he has a amazingly great time, and he makes amazing accomplishments. But it's the reinforcement that's always there for me. That's
Yeah.
what I always think of immediately. Yeah.
So someone else said, let me explain that a lot of self-advocates think that it's abuse because it changes who they are. And people think it's like training dogs. And they went on to say that they are not one of those people that feels that way. Do you think, Jem, that ABA changed who you were?
It definitely did change who I am, but it changes it in a way that it allows me to speak. Yes, it teaches me about some things and it teaches me how to speak, but it doesn't change me personality wise, or at least it changes me personality wise in the way that somebody would change their personality over time. It's one of those natural things. It's not like something artificial. It's
Okay.
just therapy which builds on social skills and development, and less of like changing into someone who could do good on homework or do good on a quiz or an assignment. It's less about that and more about developing social skills than anything, if I had to think.
And do you feel like you were trained like a dog?
Definitely not. There
In
were
the,
times where it's like, it wasn't any like, do this and you get an award thing. It's like a, hey, let's go do this and have some fun while doing it. It's like, it's not like
the
things.
irony being that ABA, can be used on dogs, and we did that all last summer. When we inherited a second dog, we decided to use ABA to make it so that the two dogs could socialize. But what's funny is that I don't think it's what people think that it is. What we did was we just kept putting the two dogs together, um, with a separation between them, a baby gate between them, and when the two of them were nose to nose did they get sausage treats. And it took weeks, but they started to feel better being around each other. The dogs weren't being harmed. We didn't change who the dogs were. We just changed their association with each other to something pleasant, to sausage. And now they love each other, which is hilarious to me. Uh, but they get along. Okay, so now I want to talk about the fact that our house is a little crazy at times, that we're a little nutty at times. And you had some auditions for your colleges not too long ago. And there was one program that you were auditioning for that was a BFA program. And you got called back. We were super proud of you that you got called back for it. But they normally, if it weren't in COVID time, you would have had to go to the audition, and there would have been like 1 hour that you would have gone into a movement audition. But because of COVID, instead, they sent you a video, Jam. As you recall, he's like, oh no, it's
He
this
knows what's
story.
coming.
And and it was like,
That
you need
day.
to learn this dance routine and videotape this. And how long did they give you? It was less than a week, right? How long was it, Jem?
About a week, yeah.
I feel like they sent it on a Monday and you had to have it in on Friday. Is that like crazy, or is that accurate?
Probably close.
That sounds right.
Okay. So, and the dancer on it was a Broadway dancer on break from Broadway because of COVID. We should say that part of the BFA program is for musical dance theater, and they were using that audition for those people, for the people who are not dancers. And they said, if you're an actor and not a dancer, you're not expected to get it perfect. But it was involved and it was not an easy dance. And I have to say, Jem, I was so proud of you. Jem was like, I'm going to learn it. And how many dance classes have you had before that in your life?
Nada.
Nada, zip, zilch, zero. And I, you started in learning each little step, and I was the person all week long that I was like, don't learn the whole thing. Just learn like 3 of the steps and then make it funny, comedy routine, do it full out. And how much did you hate me when I was telling you to do it that way?
I mean, I just more hated the thing, I guess. It was like,
Good answer. Good answer.
I remember at the end when we like went through the 30th take of it, I almost hit. It was like the last take, and I almost hit the railing of our stairs.
Yeah.
And managed to recover after that. And I remember making just a big sigh that's on the take that I sent to college.
Yeah, you finished with a big twirl and you were done, and then the very last moment you're like, like I did it. And we were so proud
No,
of
and
you.
it wasn't even like a soft. It's like a.
I'm glad this is over. So here was the funny thing. All week long, I was like, you just got to learn 3 parts to this dance, 3 little, like, figure out the hand movements, and then sell it. Like, just do it full out, improvise, do whatever you have to do. So here today on the show, we're going to debut for all of you because we thought it was hilarious. When he was all done, I got up and I said, I'm going to do what I would have done. The thing I kept telling him to do all week long, 3 little parts of it. Just commit to it like crazy. I know, I can't even believe we're going to show this. But my favorite part of this is that you'll hear Jim laughing in the background, and this is so our household. So we don't know if if you guys will be able to hear the music. Uh-oh, did it go away? Somebody says Dad seems pretty cool too. Dad is very cool. Are we able to show the video, Traven? It went away. It was there and then, oh, okay. All right. So take a look. This is my version, improvised version of the dance audition. I know, it's hilarious. Get ready. Here it is.
So I want to point out that only the first move was actually on the routine.
Hey, now I did a turn in there. It required a turn. No, the first move of it was to go like this, but then there was something with the hands that you were supposed to do this, and I just sort of improvised the hey na na.
There was something.
It was something. At least, I mean, what I was going for is, I was trying to say all week long to Jem, just commit.
Exactly.
Whatever you do it 100%. Be willing to laugh at yourself. So this is our this is our fun for you on April Fools. Officially, I am the April Fool here. But that's what a mom would do for her son, right?
That's a great mom.
I love that you guys enjoyed that. And somebody said so flexible. I hurt for a week afterwards. What is that, like 30 seconds? But I was almost in traction, you guys. But it was, and I almost fell down during the spin. I don't understand how other people did this audition because, we had to get him full body. We had to move everything out of our dining room and shoot from across our living room. And it was craziness. But we're so proud of you, Jem, and everything that you do is really remarkable. So I'm wondering let me go back through because people were writing in. Jem, what would you tell kids about Jim? What would you tell kids about your son's progress to functional communication?
How do they mean functional communication? Oh, just in.
So functional communication is sometimes people speak, But sometimes people sign, sometimes people use an iPad to be able, but it's all communication. And if it's functional, it means you get what you want.
Right. Well, I mean, he had such progress. I mean, early on, we had that time where he would say a few words, form a sentence, and then it went away. And that's the scariest thing. Um, but just as magically, maybe not as magically because it's a proven thing, but with the ABA, is that they worked so hard to get it back, and not only did it come back, but when you think about it, someone who we were actually concerned about communicating at all, this young man writes like as prolifically as Stephen King. I think Stephen King is trying to catch up to his writing. It's not only is there a lot of it. It's like I mean we read this one thing. We actually was it could have been put up next to Steinbeck, and I'm not even it's not just a dad saying that. It was beautifully written, and so his communication came out through that and through his amazing therapy. And so that's as much progress as I could have ever hoped to see. And
Yeah.
so we're just so proud.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember, especially this month, that everyone has the right to communicate. Everyone. And that not everybody communicates in the same way, and that even we tend to think that we're all vocal communication, but we're not. If you read Skinner's verbal behavior, he says that I think it's 13% of communication is vocal, and the rest of it is something else. Right now I'm looking at their faces, and Jem's not saying anything, but I can tell, he's a little bored. Right. Right. And he rightly so gets a little like okay, I'm sitting here and you're talking about me, right? But he's not saying that. So it's important that we look at all types of communication and allow people to communicate the way that they want to, is what I have to say about that. Jem, anything you want to say?
Uh, I mean, yeah, like just have them communicate in the way that they want to. I mean, that's probably the best thing to do.
But it's important to teach ways to communicate too. I think that that's super important. Hey, Kimberly wants to know, she says, I live in Ohio. They had Special Olympics here. Did they have that for your son? I will tell you that we looked into Special Olympics when he was little, and we were told that he could not join Special Olympics until, I don't know whether it was 7 or 8, but when he was the age where he could join, he didn't qualify, because at the time, and I know we actually, Jem, I don't know if you remember when they had the Special Olympics here in Los Angeles, and you and I got to go and interview the head of the Special Olympics. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I remember
And
that.
one of the things that we talked to him about at that time, um, and I'm trying to think, he's one of the Kennedys, and of course it's like I've got a mental block. But lovely, lovely gentleman. But we talked to him about the fact that the Special Olympics says that you have to have a mental disability, and that they were talking about changing that because many people on the autism spectrum do not have a mental disability. And so there are some people on the autism spectrum that are qualified, are eligible for Special Olympics, and some that aren't. And I know that it was something that was being talked about, but Jem was not eligible. He did not meet the criteria for the Special Olympics. So he did not participate, although he went with me, and we got to talk to world leaders. It was kind of a big day, where we got to go and interview them, and that was super fun. and participate in that way. And somebody said, "Oh my gosh, is that your son, Shannon? I've always wanted to see him. He's here. He's here." Okay, Jim, they want to know about marriage and marriage tips on this journey, as if you and I could give marriage tips.
Yeah, I saw one that says
Like,
Shannon and
oh,
Jim marriage on this journey. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, I think we are married, but I didn't.
yeah. But they want to know tips.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
I don't, except that I don't know if you remember this. We have statues, and we have statues for different places in our relationship. And we used to have, when we first got engaged, we had a statue that eventually got broken.
Right.
But it was two people standing and holding hands in the position of an H. And that was what how we were going to start our marriage, was holding hands and being equal, even. And then the statue got broken. I don't want to say how it got broken, but you guys can imagine. And I remember being so upset about it. And you said to me at the time, Jim, you said it's okay because that's not how we're standing anymore, that we're standing in an A now, where we're holding hands and we're putting our heads together to get through this together. And that the H, Jem is like, "Oh, this is too schmaltzy for me."
That's the
Um,
cheesiest thing.
Yeah, that's about as cheesy as that.
but I still talk
Off
about
there with
that.
provolone and Gouda.
Buddha. But I still talk about that because I think stuff would happen a lot. Like, we have been through some stuff, have we not? Some
Oh yeah.
stuff. And we kept our sense of humor about it. And whenever it was at its worst, Jim would always say, "Oh, we're in a poop storm," and and we just got to ride it out. But he wouldn't say poop. But I think, you having a sense of humor about it while those things would happen. Jem, do you remember at one point our landlord died, and and died with our rent money, and it was the middle of summer in Los Angeles. Jem was doing therapy, and we had no air conditioning, and then the washer dryer broke. And so, do you remember, Jim, when the therapist would come during the day, they would leave, and we would do a load of laundry in the washer because it was the dryer that broke, and then we would hang the clothes the length of the apartment to cool off the apartment and dry them. We had clotheslines. And then before the therapist would come in the morning, we would quickly take down the clotheslines that were indoors. Do you remember that, Jim?
Me or Jim?
Yeah, you, Big Jim.
Oh,
Do
of
you
course I
remember?
do. Oh yeah. It was
And
actually a
Jem,
brilliant
do you have any
solution.
memory of that, Jem?
No.
Be grateful. It was hot and it was sticky and it was terrible. And that was what, probably like, because it happened in May and we didn't move until November, which was crazy. Absolutely crazy. So that was months on end in hot, hot Los Angeles. They're saying that you're a brilliant young man, Jem, and that you give them so much hope. What?
Can I say one more thing about marriage? And that's,
Please.
I mean, it's you've heard it all before, but it's really true that if you're so lucky if you can marry your best friend. Um, and Shannon is so incredibly supportive of me, and I hope I'm supportive of you. But we listen to each other, and we just care so deeply about each other and this guy here.
Yeah.
And that's just really the most important thing. It's true, the humor. We got to keep the sense of humor. It has to be there all the time. It's just it will just save your butt sometimes. And but really just get out there and marry your best friend. It's my suggestion. And
Yeah.
stay that way. Yeah.
I got to say, too, that I think, studies have shown that, um, sometimes one or both people in the marriage just decide that they can't do it, right? But that the parents who decide to stay together that have a kiddo with special needs often have a stronger relationship by virtue of the fact that there is something else going on. And I think that part of why we've been successful is because of Jem. I think that, you and I, didn't matter what else was going on in the world, we both wanted what was best for him always. And it was the place that we could always rally together.
Yeah.
And so I think that you've kept us strong, Jem. What's it been like for you? Are we just a drag because you've got these two old parents?
I mean, not really.
It's like, what can you say? Well, you don't know any different, but when you look at your friends, our family is a little bit different, don't you think?
Well, I mean, a lot of my friends' parents are old. You know that, right?
Are they? I
Yeah.
guess I don't see it that way. I think that we're the oldest of the old. But I know there were times when you were little that you weren't necessarily happy with me. Like there was at least one occasion where you said that you wanted to go live with somebody else. But now do you look at it and do you think, were we okay as parents?
Yeah, you guys are definitely okay. There's a few checks and balances,
Okay.
but you're definitely okay.
You'll keep us.
Yeah,
That's so nice of you, Jem. So
it's
what do
constant
you
warning.
wish, what do you want for parents to know? How can parents be good parents when they have kiddos that are on the spectrum from your point of view, which is your point of view? It isn't everybody's point of view. What do you wish parents knew?
Just to be there for them, like be supportive, like overall try to like do things with them, like actually be there. Um, as overall just general advice for children, parents with children, and that's pretty much what I think anyone should really do in that type of situation.
Daddy and I were talking the other day about how when you were little, we didn't have enough money, first of all, but money was always tight, and we were always looking for things to take you to do that were free things. So we were taking you to this street fair or that museum on free museum day, or what we feel like we dragged you around places. And I now look back and think that was one of the best things we did. And we took therapists there. Do you remember any of that?
I remember some of that. I don't think I remember as much as you guys do, but I do remember going to a lot of museums and a lot of things back in the day. I remember that we used to go to a lot of walks, autism
Yeah.
walks, specifically, and other events like that. Either because it was an employment thing or it was just general like occasion to go there, like something that you would like to go to. And I remember that, and it's definitely did help. It definitely
Yeah,
made
by
me
the
feel
time,
happy and
I'm sorry.
enjoy myself.
Sorry.
And I think it would definitely help with somebody with autism to actually experience their community and experience some fun things like museums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And uh we used to we did so much more of it when you were little, but by the time you were a little bit older, I was back working a lot, and a lot of times I dragged you to every event under the sun. But sometimes we had fun in our adventures. Sometimes we've had a good time. Can you think of one time that you remember that was something fun that we got to do because we were on one of our adventures, either with dad or without dad?
I remember picking cherries, and we usually do that around June. We're probably not going to do it this year, but
Yeah, we
uh,
used to go cherry picking. We used to go peach picking too.
right.
I thought you were going to say when we went to Boston a year and a half ago, because I think Daddy and I remember that as one of the most fun things that we got to do. Did you like that when we
I
went
did
to
like that.
Boston?
I don't know. It didn't seem like the first thing on my mind because it was a little bit later and not
Yeah.
kind of in that period where we're like going to explore like specific things. It was like a little bit more of a family vacation more than that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Although we did some speaking engagements while we were there. That's why I was thinking of that. So somebody said it's hard when the spouse is not on board yet, but we will get there. They said my husband is having a hard time, lots of guilt. Anything you want to say to that, Jimbo?
Wow. Well, the guilt thing is definitely it's an issue. It's definitely an issue. Um, I mean, we live our word. We have the word of the day. Our word is hope. We always have that foremost in our mind. You know, you can't predict the future, but you can try just your very best to get the best future you can for your kiddo. Um, and so any guilt I have is relieved by the fact that we just know that we have done our very best to get the very best for our son. And so that's pretty much how I feel about that.
Yeah. And somebody said my mom and stepdad fight all the time about parenting. Any advice on that front? And I think because you're old enough and able to write this, to be able to say to them, we can hear you when you're fighting. We're aware of it. Now we're not big on the fight front, Jim and
Right.
I. But we've been married 19 years now. Occasionally we've had, our moments. But are you ever aware when we're fighting, Jem?
Uh, Not really.
Well, that's
Oh,
good because
okay.
I think, we tried really hard to keep that separate. Because I had older nieces and nephews who were able to tell me when they were teenagers how painful it was when they could hear their parents fighting. That it made them feel like everything was unsafe. And after all the things that we were doing to help Jem to make the most progress that he could, making him feel unsafe is kind of a counterintuitive thing. We're human beings, and I wasn't sure what the answer to that question was. But you've been aware of sometimes when mom and dad are upset about something, I imagine. Yeah?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. But we try to keep you out of it. We try to not have you take sides. And I think it's important as one of the older siblings for this person writing in, if you can sit down with your mom and your stepdad when they aren't fighting and say, hey, you guys have your relationship, but when we can hear you, it's not helpful to us. Alicia wants to know, Jem, how old you were when you stopped ABA and at what age we started seeing the progress. So do you remember how old you were when you graduated from your ABA program?
I was 8, and that's when I stopped ABI. I remember on my 8th birthday, we had like a whole graduation ceremony for that. Uh, Anybody who was hoping for a college graduation party was kind of just screwed. It was in the
Yeah.
month of June, right when college was getting out. Just like, oh hey, somebody bought all the graduation supplies. How?
Yeah, you had a graduation from ABA, but I know you're not going to get the graduation party when you think you're going to get it, but you're going to get a
Well, I
graduation party
wasn't even
from
going
high
to talk
school.
about that. I was just talking about like anybody else graduating at that time was going to be like, well, we're going to have a graduation party, but we went to Party City and there's nothing there.
Yes, yes. So,
Somebody
but in
got
any case,
ABA. Anyway,
yes, because we had a ginormous graduation party for him. He was 8 years old. He graduated from his ABA program. But I want people to know that he wasn't done then. He still had things that he was catching up with at 8. It just meant that it was time for him to take all of that into the world and learn from the world instead of be in therapy. And it was right after his 3rd birthday when he started doing ABA, and we saw progress in the first week. Do you remember, Jim? We started ABA, and we were about 7 days in, and somebody gave you tickets to a Dodger game. Do you remember that?
Oh, I think so.
And we decided to go to the Dodger game. And just the other day, we were watching home movies of Gemma. I don't know if you remember this, but if we set your feet down on the ground outside of the house, you would run. You would just run, and you would not stop running unless you found something that you could take apart. If he like ran up to something and then he would try to take something apart and then he would but he would run away from us. And so going anywhere with him was something that filled us with fear, because he would run. You take him to a park to run, and he would run right into the parking lot. He just would run. And we didn't like to go to big places. Like if we took him to someplace like Disneyland, we were those parents that had him on the harness leash, because we couldn't run as fast as he could at that point. And we were afraid of losing him or having him get hurt. So we were like, can we even take him to Dodger Stadium? And you couldn't walk down the sidewalk with him. He couldn't hold your hand. If you held his hand, he would just lay down. And but a week after we started therapy, we went to Dodger Stadium, and you walked into Dodger Stadium and held our hand the whole way as we walked to our seats. And I remember turning to your dad and going, what's happening? Like, something's happening, something's different. This is crazy. We're able to walk into Dodger Stadium, and my heart wasn't filled with fear. I thought he's gonna stay with us. And so that was huge. That was absolutely huge. And then every week there was more progress. I want everybody to realize, though, that I felt like we were, at the time, it felt like we weren't making enough progress. And I know many of you have written this in, that I was like, well, but he hasn't asked a WH question yet. He hasn't asked a question yet, and he hasn't done this, and he hasn't done that. And it was just never enough for me, because I was like, we're not going to make it. Because what I wanted was for him to be able to go to college. And I said, we're never going to make it. We're so far behind. We're never going to make it. And here we are. Here we are. And it all added up. And I just want to say to all of you, if you're sitting there and you're like, well, but it's not enough, and it's not going fast enough, and we're not making enough progress, and you're comparing it to other kids, there were other kids who were moving faster than he was. And it drove me batshit crazy. Excuse me. Drove me bat poop crazy, right? I know what happened. Sorry, excuse me. But it drove me crazy, because there were other kids who were learning faster than him. He was learning fast, but there were other kids who were doing it faster. And I couldn't, I was like, what are we doing wrong? We weren't doing anything wrong. And we just had to keep doing what we were doing, and it added up. You just don't give up. Yeah. Okay. Somebody said, Shannon, Jim, and Jem, I respect all you do as a family and how you dealt with autism. He is handsome, smart, and well-spoken young man. Yes, he's on good behavior here. But I wish they could see you when you're in your element, because you're being very polite here. But let me tell you, he's, quite capable of speaking his mind.
Yeah, I thought if anybody cursed, it would be him.
I know. And I never, ever, I'm so good always. This is like the second time in 10 years that I've said the S word. This is terrible.
Bringing out a few.
Okay. And someone else has written, they said, it's hard. My son has words, but no conversation. And we look forward to that day. Daddy, do you remember when Jem used to say one word, and then it became 2 words, and then it became 3 words?
Sure. And I remember when it was just like a kind of a grunting kind of, sure. Yeah. And I remember when it was that, and I remember getting it, when it came back, which was just, I mean, when it goes away, you just, that's the scariest thing, and then we found out that it was just something, we could get back. And then when he had full sentences, it was just,
All right, we've gone over time here, but they want to know, Jem, what are your thoughts for leaving home for college, and do you still feel that you need this any support?
I don't think I need any support at all. And my thoughts for leaving home for college. I feel a mix of things because I feel happy that I'm going to college. I feel happy that I'm going to go somewhere different. Probably I have the possibility of going to Boston, Philadelphia, stay in California, or New York, and maybe Texas. And I could go to any of those places, which is fun. I know that my family will be with me when I go there, so I feel really happy about that. Uh, at the same time, I always wonder, like, what is going to happen next? And that is what gets me a little bit fearful about what's going to happen next, because, like, the future is always uncharted territory. And I always think, well, I could just do what I am already thinking of doing and going for screenwriting or acting. But then it's like, but which one would I do more of? And it's a whole bunch of unknowns, which are ahead of me right now. So honestly, I feel like college is going to be great, but it's going to be a lot of me having to choose things besides other things and actually finalizing and narrowing the path that I'm taking.
Yeah. But you know that it's totally normal and typical to have that double-edged thing of like being excited about it, but also feeling some anxiety and some fear, right?
Right.
Everybody feels that. Well, you guys are amazing. You know I love you. I'm verklempt. And I appreciate you guys being on the show with us, and I appreciate the viewers being here and being gentle with us. And I hope that this put a smile on your face today, because he puts a smile on our face every day. I think I can speak for both of us when I say that. And we'll keep you posted about where he's going to college and let you know. You'll hear. And if it made you laugh today, please feel free to share my fat tookus dancing in our dining room. Right. All right. Thank you. We'll see you guys tomorrow, World Autism Awareness Day. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Mwah. Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.